Welcome to the Wedding Songs Podcast, featuring newly released songs you need to know and the tried and true classics. Get song ideas from the time guests arrive until the last dance of the reception. And now your host, Matt Campbell, founder of MyWeddingSongs.com.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wedding Songs Podcast. I am Matt Campbell. Today, we're going to be talking about Southern weddings and music at Southern weddings. And to help me along with this, I have Travis Bizzell from FMG Events Company.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the show. I love what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks. You know what? I try to change up the topic each time, and I haven't really talked about Southern weddings. And honestly, I'm here as one of the people that's going to be educated too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, good. That's good. Glad I can do that.
Cool. I'm going to start off the way I start off every podcast. Can you share a most memorable wedding moment that you've had?
Yeah, actually, I had one very recently. This past weekend, we did a wedding down in Charleston, South Carolina. And this is a trend that I'm noticing now where a lot more couples are doing choreographed dances, their first dance. But this couple actually hired a dance teacher or a couple to teach them their dance routine. And it was beautiful. They did their dance to Florida Georgia Line was the artist. The song was Grow Old. And they did a choreographed dance to the song, and their dance teachers were actually invited to the wedding. It was just such a beautiful moment. They had a whole routine planned out, and their dance teachers were like straight out of Dancing with the Stars. They were both Ukrainian, and then they came on and did a little number afterwards, and it was just beautiful. Just that first dance was amazing. I loved it.
So was it the intro of them right into the first dance?
No, actually, it was they did their first dance later in the evening. So that's a thing that I'm noticing a lot is migrated to the Southern weddings. You know, we all have DJ friends up in the North and other parts of the country. And sometimes I get jealous looking at some of their friends, like, oh, they're already dancing before dinner, you know, that kind of thing. That's something that started to reach its way to the South. So I've had a few weddings back to back this year where they're saving the first dance until after dinner. And then just to kind of set the party off.
Yeah, that's interesting. If I'm the groom, I want to get that thing over and done with. I don't want to be thinking about it.
Yeah, that had been the rationale is let's just get all the particulars out of the way, the father, daughter, the mothers, get all that stuff out of the way. Now we can settle down and eat. But lately they've been waiting, just introduction into dinner, toast, and then let's do first dance.
So can you tell me a little bit about you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I own FMG Event Company. We're a small outfit based in South Carolina now, mostly the Charlotte area of North Carolina, also into Asheville, North Carolina, and bulk of our work lately has been in the Charleston area as well. I've been DJ forever, 85 years I've been DJing, of course, and moved to Charlotte from New York City about 20 years ago, doing bars and nightclub DJ work, of course, always just as a hobby gig kind of thing. And then about 10 years ago, really started to fall in love with doing weddings and private events. And the part-time gig became more important than the full-time gig and more time consuming than the full-time gig. And then it just became the full-time gig.
That's awesome. That's a great story because so many DJs don't make it to that point where they're full-time.
Sure. Yeah, it is. I've been full-time for 3 years now. And it's when I first met my wife, I always tell this story. When I met my wife, I was DJing in a bar nightclub in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We'd known of each other, but we had never met. She tells the story now that when other people would tell her about me, she would say, oh, no, he's just a DJ. Don't he have a real job? And I did have a real job. Of course, I was managing retail jewelry stores, but she just thought I was some goofy DJ. Fast forward to a decade later, she's the one that actually propelled me into quitting my job and being a DJ full time.
That's a great wife who's supporting her husband to live his dreams. So
yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for her. I'd still be selling diamonds and stuff.
Cool. When DJing weddings, are weddings in the South up on new trends in music and the traditions?
They're getting there. Matt. So I'm seeing lately the things that other regions had been doing maybe a year or two ago, 3 years ago. A lot of the traditions are starting to make its way down. I've done some weddings recently. I did a wedding in Wilmington, North Carolina, down on the beach last year, where they literally came in and started dancing before dinner. We're doing a lot more not formal dinners, even where they'll just kind of have mingle high top tables in the reception where they don't want people sitting down. They just come right in like cocktail style, but for dinner because they just want that fun experience the whole time instead of the formal sit down being served. So that's starting to make its way to the South. You know, people starting to see each other's Instagrams and get some ideas.
Yeah, the power of Pinterest and Instagram.
Yeah,
It's incredible. I want
yeah,
that.
exactly. I don't want any dinner either. I just want people to have cake and party.
It's definitely the trend of no bouquet tosses, very little
Right.
cake cutting. Eventually, everything comes in full circle and it'll come back again. But yeah, for right
That's
now,
true.
it's time to party.
Yeah, that's true. Bouquet tosses is definitely making its way out. The garter thing has been out. They hardly ever do the garter toss anymore, every once in a while. And it's usually because the bride and groom's parents are really heavily involved with the planning. But if not, then they don't want any parts of this garter and bouquet thing. They just want to party. And that's what I love too. So I like the fact that some of those traditions that are just for show are starting to make their way out and people just focus on what's important for them, which is just a good time.
That's awesome. So, how do you incorporate the musical styles of the South into your wedding playlists?
I try to do a little bit of what I know is going to work with my audience. So I know Earth, Wind, and Fire is going to work. I know that's going to work. I know Motown is going to work. I know Taylor Swift is going to work, right? But I want to give it to them in ways that they may not have heard it. They haven't heard September with this kick under it, like different versions and different funky, jazzed up, more bass to them remixes of songs that they've heard. In 2024, everyone's been to 65 weddings in the past 2 years since COVID opened things back up. Everybody got married in a hurry. So we want to try to make sure this wedding is a little bit different than your friends and your cousins and everything else, but still familiar. If you love the Cupid Shuffle, I'm going to give you the Cupid Shuffle, but I'm going to give it to you a little bit differently than what you were used to. And the audiences here are starting to appreciate that as well. The 25 to 35-year-olds here are now from that era where they were hitting the bars and nightclubs in their college years, and they just want to feel that again. So that's the experience that we're trying to give them.
Are you mixing live? Are you creating your own mixes? Or are you having the pre-recorded mixes? How are you playing that music?
I do a lot live. I do a lot of live mixing. As far as creating remixes, I don't do that live. I have some go-tos that I love and some editors and remixers that I love that I always turn to when I'm looking for something. But I do on the fly, like saying, oh, this is gonna kill right now and just go for it. And what I've noticed, another change in the last few years is attention span. So now if you play 3.5 minutes of a song, it's time to move on. So it's not like quick. I don't do a lot of quick mixing, like 30 seconds in and out, but give them the good parts, give them about a minute and a half of a song, and then quickly mix into the next thing to kind of keep them going, keep the juices flowing, because they start walking around after they hear their part.
I sung the chorus. I'm done.
Exactly. Exactly. What's next from
Right.
that TikTok generation?
I know the South is known to be a little bit behind the times. How are you mixing in new music?
Yeah, I just bring the times with me. I bring them up with me. I give them what they want, but new music, I know that they're still loving early 2000s. I can put on Little John right now and the room is gonna light up. But when I put it on and I kind of marry them between now and then, and I can give them something else that is derivative of that era that they loved. And Taylor Swift is gonna kill them, and I can do a little Dua Lipa mixed in with Lady Gaga from 10 years ago. And they say, oh my goodness, you can kind of see how music evolves, but it doesn't really change that much because Dua Lipa and Lady Gaga are like distant cousins musically. So I can remind them of what they loved and the fact that it's still going down.
I love the part where you're mixing in the classic hits where you don't have to be afraid of those, but then
Yeah.
you're mixing them in and then making them relatable to couples and their parents and their grandparents that are there.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just like with Bruno Mars, his music is all derivative of a certain era. And when he did the kind of New Jack Swing era, I kind of give him the Bruno Mars, but I give him where Bruno Mars was getting that from as well. So they can kind of get a little 15-minute New Jack Swing mix and then
Yeah.
throw some Jackson 5 in that. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. And it just all kind of flows together, just reminding them of that special time in their life, no matter how old they are.
That's funny you mentioned that. I have been seeing DJs play Motown Philly, and I'm thinking,
Oh,
wow, I haven't
yeah.
heard that song in a long time. If I was dancing, I'd be like,
Yes.
oh, this is awesome.
I know. I'd whip out my Running Man. I did Motown Philly at a talent show when I was in the eighth grade.
You're making me feel old now.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're both
Yeah.
older than we look, for sure.
Yes, for sure. Are there any wedding traditions that you think are unique to the South that you incorporate into your weddings?
I don't know that they're unique to the South. Lately, I do see a lot of people, like the bride and groom, joining the cocktail hour now. So they really want to get their pictures and stuff done. I see a lot now, and maybe this is a product of the South because the weather is so nice for a
Mhm.
much longer period of the year. But they'll go ahead and get their pictures and stuff out of the way early, even before the ceremony. They'll get the family pictures and the portrait shots and all that stuff done because they want to be around during cocktail hour. So there's a lot of that now where the first 20 to 25 minutes, the bride and groom still has some business to do with pictures and signing and all that. And then they want to be introduced into cocktail hour and mingle in with everybody during cocktail hour. And it's usually outdoors somewhere because we're in South Carolina, North Carolina, and the weather's beautiful. So they just want to be out there hanging around and chilling too. They don't want to be bustled up somewhere, still being directed. They've been doing that all day long.
And that's definitely my number one pet peeve of the couple taking an hour pictures right
Yeah.
after the ceremony, and then everybody's just wondering what's going on. And then you, as a DJ,
Right.
you have your must playlist. Now you can't really play that during cocktail hour because they're not even
Yeah,
there.
because they're not there to hear it.
Right.
Exactly. I want you guys to enjoy my music. So I am seeing a lot more of that. Like the bride and grooms are in cocktail hour, which I love.
That's a fantastic new trend for sure. Are there any line dance anthems that are practically mandatory at a Southern wedding?
Not anymore. I am getting a lot more couples getting away from the line dance because again, they're coming from that nightclub bar experience from their college days. Even the ones that don't want absolutely any line dances, if there is an exception, it's going to be the wobble. That's the one that they will
Interesting.
say, okay, you can say yes to that one, even though I don't want any line dances, but I know this one's going to go. So that would be the exception to the rule all the time is the wobble. Like the Cupid shuffle is kind of making its way out. Everybody loves a good cha-cha slide here and there for various weddings, and some just don't want them at all. But I have found that the wobble, if we're going to do one, that's the one that gets requested the most is the wobble.
And that's
Yeah.
probably the most risque too out of all of those.
Yeah, they don't listen to the words, but that is the most requested of them when we're gonna do them. And of course, every DJ in the world, so I would love to have no line dances at weddings. Of course we would. But I always would like to just tell couples, do what you love and know your family and your guests. Don't let the knot and whomever bully you out of doing the music that you like to do. I did a wedding last year and she was on the absolutely no line dance kind of deal, which was fine with me. It was a smaller wedding and they were just kind of mix and mingling. Everybody was outside playing cornhole and stuff. And everybody kept coming to me asking me for specific line dances. And I had to keep telling them, no, I'm sorry, I can't play it. She didn't want any line dances. The bride was outside almost the whole wedding anyway. Finally, towards the end of the night, she came back and it wasn't even just no, it was like no line dances, no Bruno Mars. She didn't want anything that's been played at any other wedding. But you got to know your audience as well. So she finally came back into me with 30 minutes to go and said, forget my do not playlist, just do what you want to do. But we've already lost them. We've already lost them at this point. And they came in and did a little bit, but it was kind of like now I learned from that to ask, I cannot do this, but what happens if I find that they absolutely need it just to get people going, just to get them started? Some crowds, especially in the South, you got to give them a few of that just to get them going, and then they'll do whatever you want them to do. But a little bit of help.
I think that's across the country where if you're not playing to the crowd, they're going to
Right.
leave.
Exactly. Exactly. And the bride, I think her thought process was, I've been to a bunch of weddings and I don't want anything that everybody else has been doing. But all of her friends and family, all of her bridesmaids, that's what they wanted to do. And it was only a 50 people wedding. So if 15, 20 of those people that would help me get people going, they're not going because I'm not giving them what they want, then it makes for a harder night.
Right. Well, one of the things too I'd like to say is even if they say no Bruno Mars, it doesn't mean you have to play Uptown Funk or 24K
Right.
Magic. He has
Yeah.
such a wide collection of music, like Grenade, and there's so many other great songs. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have to play the most popular.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we all have funky ways of mixing in and out of it or different remixes that you haven't heard a bunch of times. So that was a learning experience for sure. And I still learn to give them what they want, but still do what needs to be done.
Time for a quick break from the show to let you know about the Wedding Music Letter. Are you struggling to find the wedding songs that match your personality and music style? Are you having a hard time keeping up with the new wedding songs being released? Then subscribe today to the Wedding Music Letter by going to my website, myweddingsongs.com, and clicking on the Join Now button. Every Wednesday, you'll get song ideas to build your wedding playlists. On the last day of the month, you'll get all of the new wedding songs released from the prior month. So subscribe today and join over 7,000 other engaged couples and wedding pros by going to myweddingsongs.com and joining the Wedding Music Letter today. Now back to the show. The next question, how do you meld modern hits with the lively dance floor for all ages? What are some of your favorites for melding those two?
I mentioned Earth, Wind, and Fire earlier, right? So
Mhm.
September, that's easy because I can go from the version of September that I use the most is called the Rad Stereo remix of September. It's at like a 128-ish BPM. I can go from that even in key to almost anything Black Eyed Peas related, like Boom Boom Pow or anything Will I Am related, and kind of go right from September right into Black Eyed Peas, then get them going, Calvin Harris, kind of start building it that way into that high intensity 128 to 130 BPM flow rider, bringing all those things in, but still weaving in and out. So starting with the 70s, bringing them in, then going back a little bit like Salt and Pepper Push It, still in that same era. I'm sure every DJ in the world has this, but I have a Salt and Pepper blended with Fergalicious.
Okay, yeah.
I could tell you, man, oh, where'd you get this from? It came from like an old MTV Party to Go CD or something. I've just had it
Yeah.
forever. And I know it was on one of those mashup MTV created CDs. And it goes every time. And it fits right into that sweet spot. And then we can just take that and just build the night from there into the more electronic dance music and then just keep the party going from there.
I think one thing that you mentioned that's really important is just because it's a newer song doesn't mean the young at heart are not going to dance to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
mixing in those older hits with the newer hits, you're really making all ages happy. And I think that that's really important. It doesn't have to be a 15-minute set of all
Mhm.
2000s music.
Right, that's a good point. You got to find a way to bring everybody involved. There's one little area of music where it's in that kind of lower BPM. It's that Soldier Boy, Little John, Snap Your Fingers, Young Jock is going down. All
Mhm.
that era was kind of in that lower BPM. Waka Flocka, No Hands, but still doing that, two, three, four songs of that, and then finding something else along that same feeling, but
Yeah.
a little bit newer or even a little bit older. Just notice who's sitting down. Notice who sat down when this started, and then mix in something to get that person back up.
And then you go into a sing along to reset like Biz Markie, just a friend.
Yes, exactly. Even if you're not actively dancing, I see
Mhm.
you, and now you're screaming at the top of your lungs, you know?
Right. Yep.
Because I turn the music down right at the sweet spot and hear everybody say, "Oh, baby, you."
Right.
It's the fun.
Oh man. Yeah, that just gives me goosebumps thinking about that. Have you noticed any specific regional variations in terms of musical preferences? The South is known for football. I'm sure there's football fight songs that you have to play. But is there
Yeah.
other regional things that you're seeing that are popular in your area?
Like you said, the Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers, no matter which wedding I'm doing, I'm definitely playing that song once almost every weekend because they're either graduates of one or the other. And so that always goes hard. And then everybody gets in the big circle and starts screaming and yelling and doing all their college chants and stuff. So that's always fun. And the other thing I've noticed in other areas, they want to go hard early. Beginning of the night, you got to kill them. You got to go. In the South, it's still very family oriented. Still a lot of weddings with kids there. So they want to be super family friendly early and give us the Motown, give us the favorites, the Brunos, the Taylor Swifts, give us that stuff early. And then grandma's going home. We got babysitter, the kids, all the older folks going home. And then we're going to turn these lights down and we're going to get busy. So that's what I'm seeing a lot versus the opposite where they just want to go the whole night long. I think here they're a little bit more conscious of their family and not wanting to upset uncles and aunties and other people like that are still at the wedding. And then say all gloves are off after 9 o'clock.
So you're not really seeing weddings with no kids then?
Not much, not much. I would love to, but I don't see them very much. It's kind of half and half at this point, and that number is starting to dwindle down, but it's about half and half.
Okay. Do you have any advice for couples planning a Southern wedding who want to incorporate their music preferences?
Yeah, just let your DJ know what you love and let them know what you hate. And like I said earlier, don't be internet bullied into trying to do something totally different than everybody else. Or if you love it, if this is your jam, then let it be your jam. Nobody can tell you that you can't jam out to Taylor Swift all night long, or you can't listen to Young Jock, or you can't dance to Uptown Funk because someone else has already overused it. September's been around since the 70s. It's just some things last forever, and that's going to be okay. So if you're into line dancing, that's okay. Every wedding in the world almost has some line dancing. They're just not showing you that on their Instagram. They're just not showing you the line dances. So if you love line dances, don't be bullied away from it. If you want something custom done where you want your first dance to be a mixture of 2 or 3 different songs, get with your DJ. He can make it happen for you for sure. We're seeing that a lot.
There's a lot of talk going around the DJ boards right now of what songs that couples shouldn't play and with being told what not to play. And
Yeah.
one of my dad's favorite songs is the YMCA. And it's just knowing your crowd. And just
Yeah.
because it's been played so much, like you're saying, that doesn't mean it's not going to make everybody feel good at your wedding.
That's what it's all about. Making everybody feel good. Throw on the YMCA, come back up with ABBA and watch what happens. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Watch what happens. Everybody's going to be having a great time as opposed to if you didn't and people just kind of sit around mingling. It's just some songs are timeless. It's just a great time. YMCA is a great time, man. If that's what you love, this is your day. You spend a whole lot of money on it. You should do what you love.
And like you said earlier, it doesn't mean you have to play 3.5 minutes of it. You could play a
Right.
minute and a half, and everybody's going
Yeah.
to get their fill and be happy.
Exactly. We're not going to run through the third chorus of YMCA. We're not going to. We're about to do Gimme, 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 and we're going to move on, a little Mamma Mia or something, and then we're going to keep it moving. But they'll still get that moment of, oh, I love that. Oh, I remember that. Oh, that was so great. And that's what it's all about.
100% agree. So, can you recommend any lesser known Southern artists that maybe somebody from the West Coast doesn't know about?
Yeah, I think I don't know about lesser known, but obviously our Florida Georgia line is really big down here. Casey Musgraves, Cole Swindell is really good at weddings. Sam Hunt, he has a couple of slower songs that'll be nice during dinner and pickup time. And then he has a couple bangers that they can dance to as well. I like his vibe a lot, Sam Hunt. And Tyler Childers is really popular right now in weddings down here. So he's a really good artist to look out for if you haven't been playing any of his stuff. Now just test it out during cocktail and during dinner and see how it moves. Tyler Childers, Cole Swindell is some of my favorites.
Have to ask then, you mentioned all country artists. What percentage of your weddings are country music?
Probably about 75, about
Oh, okay.
75%. Yeah, I do a lot of country. Well, their roots are in country music,
Hmm.
but they want the rest of the night to be hip hop, pop, dance music. But there's always some country music tones in the weddings, in most of the weddings that I do. Outdoors, beach vibes, farm style weddings. It's all these, their roots are in country music, and then their fun is in the pop and the hip hop. And when it comes to the pop stuff, Kesha still goes hard down here. I throw in some Kesha records and they love it. Fergie, anything that gets the young girls excited and dancing is always a big hit.
Natasha Bedingfield, all of that era is definitely,
Yeah, yeah, those
yeah.
anthems, and the guys, of course, the guys they love Drake and 21 Savage. They love those. Even a little bit of that I Want to Rock. They like that one a little bit, but that one didn't last very long. But they still just go back to that classic era of early Drake, Lil Wayne, that Rick Ross era. Everybody still loves that now.
That's cool. How many times are you playing Fishing in the Dark?
Oh, not very much actually.
Really?
Not very much. It's more like just newer pop country, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
A little bit pop country, because then they want to be able to easily transition out of that into what they want to do pop wise, and like a lot of Dua Lipa, stuff like that. As far as the more traditional, and this is semi-traditional, I guess, is Shania Twain would probably be the most countryest country thing that we play would be Shania Twain. They love it.
That's interesting that you're not going the true classic like a Johnny Cash. That I think it's better for mixing too because you're
Right.
starting with those 90s artists and then like you were saying the Florida Georgia Lines, the Lady A's, that pop country. I think
Yeah,
that's going to be easier to mix, especially when you're in
it
party
is.
time and you're playing exactly what you're saying, Sam Hunt house party, then you know that
Mhm.
you can fill that dance floor. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Even a little Sugarland. Sugarland will
Mhm.
get them going, kind of get the party started with that. So a lot of that comes back out into me.
I love their song Stuck Like Glue.
That's the one. That's in the heavy rotation. Usually like
Yeah.
cocktail or dinner. I throw that in during cocktail and dinner time. If I know it's a country audience, I'll throw that in during dinner for sure.
So, what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing that maybe it just started? I know you covered some already, but are you seeing anything that's really sticking out? I'm sure no more mason jars.
Yeah, no more mason jars. I do see a lot of people, like I said, with the cocktail hour kind of joining in, a lot of people not doing formal dinner anymore during their wedding, just kind of having it pickups, finger foods, and kind of dinner stations where they'll have a taco bar, they'll have a pasta bar, they'll have a meat carving station. A lot of that going on where people just kind of float around and do their thing, just a different kind of experience. And then musically, no one wants the kind of just hang back instrumentals during dinner. DJs used to be able to throw on some instrumentals and go eat. Now, at least for myself and the DJs that I work with, we're live mixing during dinner because even if they're not dancing yet, it is a more upbeat vibe than the formal ballroom style dinner. They're still having a good time during dinner. So we're live mixing and interacting with folks earlier in the night than we used to be. And I see that's probably going to start trending towards what I talked about initially with dancing before dinner. It's slowly starting to get that way because the vibe is going up earlier in the night now. They're setting the tone right from the introduction and then kind of keeping it on a medium until dance time, where it used to start with you can just throw on Michael Bublé or something during dinner and there'll be pianos and violins, but now they don't want that. They want at least to be toe tapping during dinner time.
There's great Frank Sinatra songs, but it's
Yeah.
got to be one that's upbeat. That's one of
Yeah.
the first songs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everything is going more upbeat. Very rarely are we even after first 45 minutes of dance time. There's no more slow songs. There's no more slow songs. Everything is just upbeat. The slow songs is normally just for the older people that are there.
Mm.
But the younger adults, 25 to 35, they don't even want slow dances hardly. And if they do, it's still something kind of Tennessee whiskey always goes. Thomas Rhett, Die a Happy Man. That's always a good one to play during slow dance. And then it's like Genuine Pony. That's as slow as it's going to get. So everything is trending upwards as far as BPMs and music genres. The slower, softer stuff is getting out of here for weddings.
I would say that's pretty much across the country. So I think that's a great trend. It's because if you're boring guests during the cocktail hour, they're just going to leave early. So I love that.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, Travis. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think that we should have about Southern weddings?
Oh, I think we covered it all. Southern weddings are beginning to be not much different than my friends in Jersey and my friends on the West Coast. So we're getting there. We're here now.
So where can listeners connect with you and follow along?
Hey, I am at Instagram and Facebook at FMG Event Co, FMG Event Co, fmgeventcompany.com.
Nice and easy. Hey,
Sir.
thanks again, Travis, for helping us along with Southern weddings.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and stay tuned for next week for another episode with a wedding pro.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Songs Podcast. Never miss a future episode. Subscribe today to our podcast. Follow us on Facebook at My Wedding Songs and send us a message about playlists you would like covered.